Thank you, Deputy Speaker. I rise to speak on the Summary Offences, Prevention of Knife Crime and Other Legislation Bill 2023. The stated aims of the bill are to reduce knife crime and youth offending in Queensland and the risks associated with the sale, possession and storage of knives and other dangerous items. And the bill's reforms have clearly been brought forward by the government in response to the tragic fatal stabbing of Vilene White at Red Bank Plains Shopping Centre in Ipswich. This appalling event has devastated Vilene White's friends, family and the whole community, and sadly it is just one of the long lists of high-profile incidents involving violent youth crime here in Queensland. And according to the figures released by QPS in 2019, the number of knife crimes in Queensland jumped more than 40% between the years 2014 and 2019. In 2021-22, QPS reported a 21% increase in the number of young people caught carrying knives in public place and 11 knife-related murders. That year there were 5 stabbing deaths within 12 months in Surfers Paradise area, and since 2015, criminal offences in Queensland have soared 31%. The number of assaults skyrocketed 219%, unlawful entry offences increased 54%, and the unlawful use of motor vehicles rose 115%, and these are truly shocking statistics. The youth crime crisis in Queensland is no beat up, which is why I stand here today to deliver a message loud and clear about the issue our state is facing with regards to youth crime. In particular, the absolute carnage that is taking place because teenagers that participate in serious and violent offending with weapons are being enabled by the current out-of-touch, unsatisfactory responses from this government. And the blame continues to cycle, with the government pressuring police to make more arrests, only to see the offenders back on the street the next day and the police questioning why they even bothered. And many police will tell you that the magistrates are giving defendants far too many chances, while the judiciary claim their hands are tied by the legislation. It is a never-ending cycle of blame. And meanwhile, people are living in fear and others are being killed, and all the public can see, the public we are paid to represent, incidentally, is a lot of us sitting here on behind our backsides and our behinds, bickering over knee-jerk solutions that will do little to help those exposed to the real-life threat of what is actually going on. This bill focuses on stopping the sale of weapons to under-18s. It's like now how we stop the sale of vapes to minors. Speak to any parent of teenagers in this state or any teacher at high school and ask them if stopping the sales has made a single bit of difference to vaping. Does anyone seriously think that these young criminals who are so brazen as to go out and stab someone will stop that behaviour or be deterred because we pass legislation here in this House and banning the sale of knives? Don't get me wrong, we should ban the sale of these weapons if we can, but it will not stop the problem, Mr Speaker. We need to get real and we need to get practical. In many instances, these offenders are from war-torn countries with a long history of intergenerational violence and trauma. Rather than being given the guidance and support they need, they are being dumped into our schools under a banner of being diverse and expected to magically transition into our way of life here in Australia. But in some cases, they are not transitioning to our way of life at all. They are trashing it, and we are left scrambling to find solutions without offending anyone. Well, let me be clear here today. We owe it to the families of those people being stabbed to come up with something a lot more tangible than the laws contained in this bill. As I said, we haven't stopped vapes, and do you really think this is going to stop machetes? While I'm on the topic of machetes, I'll tell you something. They deported, the old Labor government of old deported the South Sea Islanders back to South Sea Island for a lot less reasons that we got here in this state and the murders that are continuing on here. And as I said, we haven't stopped the vapes. And while I'm on the topic of machetes, I've spoken to a great length to the parents of the child at a private school in Brisbane who last year raised concerns over a number of serious gang offenders at the school who were threatening students with knives and machetes. The parent was even told by one teacher that he had personally taken machetes off students and that this had now largely become his job role. Yet when meeting with the principal to discuss their concerns, the parent was told it was not happening and that it was not a delusion, they are the ones deluded. The parents even went to police with their concerns and were told that the parents had very valid reasons for being worried and concerned, as the criminal histories of these individuals were very significant. The school, however, completely denied there was any problem with students carrying weapons and even referred the parent to the Department of Child Safety and demanded they seek written permission before setting foot on the school grounds again, and that's outrageous. As parents, we get a letter when head lice is detected in the school, but it's nothing, it seems, when machetes are detected. No one gets told. Young offenders are committing these serious crimes in plain sight, and the whole thing is being papered over and suppressed. It is all being dealt with behind closed doors because of their age, and those carrying machetes and killing people are more protected than the actual communities. And we need to look at what is in place right now to monitor, detect and respond to the fears that people have around kids who are bringing weapons into the schoolyard and threatening other students with them. We need to look at any government funding that is being given to those schools to house these offenders and the safety of young people who are being threatened and exploited by these individuals. Deputy Speaker, according to reports, the teenager who allegedly stabbed Eileen White was out on bail for armed robbery. The teen had reportedly been charged with these armed robbery offences last year. This incident must serve as a wake-up call to Queenslanders of the state's worsening youth gang problems. At least 2 of the teens involved in this crime alleged to have links to Brisbane drill gang, known as SBG, and several of these gangs are linked to car thefts, home invasions, with groups themselves boasting on their criminal activity on social media. They hold large knives and weapons. Despite this, gang task force set up by QPS in 2022 to tackle the problem was disbanded last year, and we're wondering why. It's hard to comprehend the government would abandon such a vital task force, particularly where even when the Police Commissioner acknowledges gangs are an escalating problem in Queensland. The only explanation is that, yet again, Queensland Police are being stretched to the wire when it comes to funding, resources and adequate staffing levels. Deputy Speaker, according to all reports, police officers are now leaving the Queensland Police Force in droves. Those that remain are stressed and overwhelmed, and as pressure workloads mount, today there are 322 fewer full-time frontline police to deal with these issues in Queensland than there were 18 months ago. And Queensland detention centres are overflowing, with several of the police watch houses in North Queensland at more than 170% capacity. A Working for Queensland survey has found that 50% of police officers say they are likely to quit their jobs over the next 2 years. A lot of them are on extended long sick leave. They're not going back to work, and they're just stretched to the wire. The problem of violent crime in Queensland is an issue that transcends party lines, Deputy Speaker, and it is time for leadership, clear action and a united vision for emergency funding for the police and prevention programs to keep the public of Queensland safe. Warm words here are no longer enough, and we need change.